Today, we're going to unravel the story that's literally woven into traditional Chinese clothing. And believe me, this isn't just about fashion. We're talking about philosophy, a whole worldview, even a map of the universe, all tailored into a single robe. So yeah, let's explore how a piece of clothing can hold an entire cosmos. It sounds like a huge question, doesn't it? Can a piece of clothing really represent the entire universe? Well, for thousands of years, that was the exact idea behind some of the most iconic garments in Chinese history. And to get how that's even possible, we need to start with one core concept. And that concept is called assimilationist aesthetics. It's this beautiful idea that what we create, art, culture, even our clothes, shouldn't just be pretty. They should actually be in sync with the universe itself. The whole point is harmony, a perfect blend between our human world and the natural cosmic order. And clothing, that was seen as one of the most personal, most powerful ways to live out that harmony. You can see this idea taking shape really early on. I mean, look at this ancient silk painting. You're seeing more than just a dress here. Those flowing lines, the way the fabric would move with the body, it was all designed to echo a kind of grace and connection to the world. This is really our ground zero. Okay, so let's jump back to the very beginning. We're talking about the Shang and Zhao dynasties, a time when these big philosophical ideas were first being woven into the literal fabric of society. Check this out. This amazing little jade figurine is over 3,000 years old, and it gives us our first really clear look at what we're talking about. Notice that basic structure. You've got an upper garment, a lower skirt, and a sash. This simple two-part design, totally intentional. It was the foundation for everything to come. So that foundational style eventually evolved into something called the Shenyi, which literally means deep robe. And it was during the Zhou dynasty, the era of Confucius and this massive philosophical boom, that the Shenyi went from being just clothes to being a really complex philosophical statement. And here it is, the Shenyi in its idealized form. At first glance, it might just look like a simple robe, right? But every single cut, every seam, every measurement was packed with layers of meaning. It was basically a wearable blueprint of the cosmos and a daily reminder of how a virtuous person ought to act. And the real magic is in the details. The upper part symbolized heaven, or yang energy. The lower skirt, made from 12 separate pieces of fabric, represented earth, that's yin, and the 12 months of the year. But it didn't stop there. A straight seam running right down the back, that stood for integrity and justice. The round sleeves were designed to allow for graceful, respectful movements, while the square collar symbolized earthly order. So putting on a chenier wasn't just getting dressed. It was like putting on a constant physical reminder of your exact place in the universe. But of course, no culture just exists in a bubble, right? As dynasties rose and fell, China's interactions with the outside world, especially with the nomadic peoples to the north, brought from really dramatic changes to what people wore. And this led to a completely new style called hufu. Now, hufu was the total opposite of the flowing philosophical robes of the Han Chinese. Hufu was all about one thing, practicality. It was born from the real-world needs of life on the steppe, riding horses, fighting battles, and just surviving in a harsh climate. And the contrast is just wow. It's so stark. On the left, you've got this elegant, full-body Hanfu robe, perfect for life at court. And then on the right, you see the Hufu style on this warrior, a fitted jacket, trousers, and boots. Form is absolutely following function here, representing two completely different ways of life. So let's just break down those key differences. Hanfu was all about being wide and flowing, designed to show grace and high status. Hufu, on the other hand, was tight-fitting, for warmth and being able to move freely. You literally have this single, long robe of a scholar versus the practical two-piece suit of a warrior on horseback. But then came the Tang Dynasty, which was just this incredible golden age. It was this confident, cosmopolitan empire at the very heart of the Silk Road. And the Tang didn't just reject foreign styles. No way. It absorbed them, played with them, and adapted them. You start to see Hufu influences blending with Hanfu, creating this explosion of color, new fabrics, and incredibly diverse fashions that were more vibrant and lavish than anything seen before. All right, so as we move into the later dynasties, the meaning of clothing starts to shift again. It becomes a little less about philosophy and a lot more about politics. It turns into a powerful tool for projecting ideology and, frankly, for enforcing social order. This whole period from the 10th century on was just a whirlwind of change. You see the shift to sober Confucian ideals in the Song, then rule by the Mongols and the Yuan, a big Han Chinese revival in the Ming, and then finally conquest by the Manchus, who established the Qing dynasty. And every single one of these transitions was reflected in what people wore. So after all that extravagance of the Tang dynasty, the Song dynasty kind of turned inward. Guided by this stricter, more philosophical brand of Confucianism, fashion became simple, elegant, very understated. The focus swung back from showing off outer wealth to expressing inner virtue. Now, when non-Han groups like the Mongols and later the Manchus took power, clothing became an unmistakable symbol of who was in charge. They brought their own traditional styles with them, and wearing those clothes wasn't a fashion choice. It was a declaration of power and allegiance. And this really hit its peak during the Qing dynasty when the Manchu rulers laid down super strict laws about clothing. Han Chinese men were actually forced to wear the Manchu-style robe and adopt the queue hairstyle as a sign of submission. But, fun fact, Han women were mostly allowed to keep wearing their Ming-style clothes. It was a very deliberate, very visible policy meant to cement Manchu dominance. For centuries, these dynastic styles were what defined Chinese clothing. But the 20th century brought a radical, sharp break with the past, which was then followed by a totally unexpected and powerful revival in our own time. It's wild to think, but the revolution started with a haircut. For the rebels fighting to overthrow the Qing, cutting off that queue hairstyle was the ultimate act of defiance. It was a symbolic rejection of Manchu rule and a break with the entire imperial system. In the decades after that, the traditional robes were replaced by the simple, functional Mao suit. It was designed to completely erase all distinctions of class, of region, of history. That rich, colorful tapestry of dynastic styles just gave way to a sea of blue and gray, symbolizing a new, uniform, egalitarian ideal. And then, after all that, something pretty remarkable happened. Here in the 21st century, young people started reaching back into history. A vibrant, totally grassroots movement to revive Hanfu, the clothing of the Han people from before the Qing dynasty, has just exploded across China. And for the thousands of young people involved in this is so much more than just playing dress-up. It's a way for them to physically connect with their own cultural and philosophical roots. It's a rediscovery of that ancient, foundational idea we started with, that a piece of clothing can actually reflect something really profound about who you are and your place in the universe. So, all of this leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In a world that's more interconnected than ever, where fashion is totally globalized, what does it actually mean to wear your history? Is it a costume? A political statement? Or is it, like the makers of the very first shenhui believed, a way to wear your entire universe on your shoulders?